any way you want to define it, he should be getting serious consideration for most valuable player this year.
Because of his 50-point games?
No. Dude, forget about just the 1 or 2 or 3 50-point games. He's averaging almost 30 points a game. What's so funny? Dude,
one of my favorite things you say is when you could carry an episode.
Yeah. Why? Because
it's a bit
I always
smug.
carry an episode?
It's a big smug.
Oh, dude, you should see the messages I get about carrying episodes. Anyway, no, listen, dude, we're killing it. I mean, I know we're on record here. Luca Nation, I love you. What is this, episode 615? We had a great story. Who was it? Was it Yam that posted in the story or Drake's PC? I always get those two tall, skinny guys confused. Love you both. But you're interchangeable in my brain because I'm old. I'm sorry. One of you likes wrestling cards and the other one likes Peyton Manning cards. One of them likes, alternate stuff. The other one likes Peyton Manning. Who was it? Who put it in that post? And it was like, look at these guys, Luca Nation. They're killing it. And it was, I didn't even realize. We doubled down. We went Luber straight into the card ladder stuff. And we got some really good feedback about that card ladder episode. We got a lot of good messages about that. People like that, man. People like when people will have a conversation and they'll say their piece. And at the end, all right, we can still hang. You know what I mean? Like, I don't hate you. You don't hate me. We're not going to agree. I'd like to send those guys NFTs, Lucas Tigers, but I don't think they have wallets to send them to. So, it's one of those things, right? The hobby doesn't have to have Sharks and Jets. We can all be Tigers. So anyway, what would you like to talk about today? I'll tell you a couple things that's on my mind, right? I definitely can carry the episode today. I am excited about my pick because I want to talk about one of those 20 plays that I talked about that I was going to be bringing as Cage's cardboard relevant. The cards that are just, you might not think they're sexy, but I should have bought one of these. I didn't buy one myself. I should have bought one when I got back into the hobby, 17, 18, coming strong. And it was only a couple $100 then. You can imagine what it's at now. And, I have one of those blue chip kind of things. And I get to tell a story about him because it's somebody that I watched play and it's somebody who I think is amazing. So I can't wait to kind of get through that with you guys. Just a real legend of the game.
Is it
I'm
Mickey
a little
Mantle?
surprised. No, I didn't watch Mickey Mantle. Come on. I'm too young for that. Mickey Mantle already retired. I watched Ty Cobb, the Georgia Peach.
My dad asked me, my dad used to have a cafe and he used to have Russian Ukrainian girls work for him. That would come over here, they'd get on a visa and they'd want to stay, but some of them couldn't. One of them's a graphic designer and he's like, Andrew, your guys' podcast is growing. Do you guys need
Can
a
I
graphic
bring
designer?
a Russian Ukrainian girl?
Well, he's like, do you need a designer?
Do you need a wife?
Do you need any help? And I was like, well, it's really hard, if people don't know sports, to teach them how to create content. I was like, have you looked at our feed before? Have you looked at our Instagram? And he started looking through it and he was so impressed. And he stumbled upon the Mickey Mantle card and he wanted to know. He's like, who is this guy? I was like, well, he used to be married to, what's her name?
That's Joe DiMaggio, who was married to Marilyn
And that's
Monroe.
what he said.
Yeah.
So he's like, wait, no, that was DiMaggio. And I was like, oh, so what made Mickey Mantle, he was asking, so iconic? Just the greatest player of all time?
Yeah, I mean, he came up as a kid. Well, Ruth was a different player, right? Different player. And Mantle was 5 tools. And they hadn't seen that 5 tools. Could play the field. He actually hurt himself. He could play the field, was just, could hit for average, could hit for power, was fast. Babe obviously wasn't stealing any bases. Ruth was one of those, Mantle was just one of those guys that could just do everything on the field. And he came up real young for the Yankees. Obviously, the Yankees were huge. So it was a combination of a lot of things, right? The team was great. He was amazing. And, it was just I guess it was one of those things, right? There was a face of baseball and usually was the face of the Yankees. It was Ruth for a while, it was DiMaggio for a while, and then Mantle kind of took that over. He took the mantle, So, also, I think he kind of portrayed sort of like an everyman, right? He was, he was a beer guy, you drink beer, he was one of these guys that people who watch the sport could relate to.
They saw themselves in him.
Yeah. It was. He wasn't, he was a big guy, muscular, but he wasn't one of these guys that, you're looking like, okay, that's an otherworldly person. You know what I mean? This is, it could have been anyone, I guess, is what it was. But Mantle's not my play. So I'm glad that your dad. You're glad.
It,
I'm glad your dad is looking
it's
at our seed. That's pretty awesome.
it's a shout out to our team. I mean, you guys are really doing an amazing job. You really are. Like if it passed my dad's, test.
Yeah, he's tough.
He's
He
tough.
yelled at me for drinking so much on the podcast, just like not beer, but like like I have the soda, and he's like, you shouldn't drink soda during the episode, Cade. You shouldn't be drinking. It's not professional. I want to tell him like I don't feel well sometimes, or like I talk a lot.
Or
My throat
ever.
hurts. Like, yeah.
I don't think I've ever felt well. So I'm always drinking my shit. All right. So what else?
Man. So yeah, so I'm surprised at how little action there was immediately after they called an end to the lockout. I think Carlos Rodon signed with the Giants, and I think Clayton Kershaw re-signed with the Dodgers. But there hasn't been like a shoe that dropped. I was always under the impression that this was a fugazi lockout, and that agents were probably talking to people, and owners were probably talking, like and it was one of those where we probably had things worked out, but we couldn't do it and couldn't finalize it. It's like we can't talk trades, we can't talk free agent signings until this deadline. And I just figured, when the curtain dropped, boom, Freddie Freeman would be here, and
Freddie Freeman's gonna stay in Atlanta. He's beloved. They love him there.
You would think that a team that made as much money as they did this past year, and because they're owned by the media company that I told you about, you can see how much the Braves made profit last year because it's in their stock reports, right? So it's in their public filings with the SEC, and they made a lot of money. They definitely did. So you'd figure they'd find a way. Plus, he is beloved there. That said, usually when a free agent,
they love him. Like I don't want to like kind of gloss over that. At the Culture Collision, there were tons of little kids, with the Braves jerseys. 9 out of 10, Freddie Freeman. Not Acuna, not anyone else.
I'll tell you,
Freeman.
man. Well, listen, he's a great player, an MVP player, champ, winner. Which is why I don't think he's going to go back there, because that kind of player who's that beloved and did so much for a franchise, you would figure they would have locked him up by now. And I have a feeling, especially with this additional money that just came in for these teams, that a team like the Dodgers can make one hell of an offer to him, especially with they lost Seager. A team like the Yankees can make him an offer also, especially when he's older than Correa, and you expect the Yankees to make some sort of a move, right? But Correa would be something like what Lindor did, so you'd have to give him like a 10-year, $300-something million contract, whereas you could probably give Freddie Freeman a 5-year contract with about the same amount of average value. And if you're the Yankees, you think, all right, I'd rather do that and not have another Stanton type contract, and maybe still be able to sign Judge next year. You know what I mean? So I guess what I'm saying is there are other teams now that I think are probably in the mix, the Dodgers especially. But I'm surprised, that Trevor Story didn't get a deal, and I think really it's Freeman that's holding it up.
He's the big sign.
Yeah, once that domino falls, then teams will know, and then you'll wind up with the trades, right? So the Oakland Athletics have Chapman and Olsen, the double Mats out there, who are both trade bait, but teams are not desperate for them yet because there are still top free agents that can be signed without you having to give up any one of your top prospects to get those guys back. So you got to figure that, you're going to need guys like Freeman and Story and a couple of others to come off the board before those guys get signed. And, it's not a humongous amount of pitchers. There's a ton of relievers that are available.
I'll tell you, the Carlos Rodon signing to the Giants, I think is going to be huge. That's a pitcher's ballpark, and he's a good pitcher, man.
I got to tell you,
retired, right? Posey's gone.
I'm a Yankee guy. I was expecting him to go to the Yankees because the Yankees could overpay him, and they've shown in the last couple of years that they're willing to take a chance on a guy who, might have had some injuries, like Corey Kluber, like Jameson Taillon, like these guys who, because Rodon, he was not that good. I mean, he was injured. He wasn't. And then last year, he just put it all together and had a great season, and got paid. So that's kind of how it works. But yeah, I mean, the Giants, the best get better. So can't fault him for that. Obviously, great signing. But I'm a little surprised that there haven't been more, and I'm looking forward to more because April 7th is right around the corner. That's opening day. That's not like time to get in camp. That's like when games are being played. So you got all of these free agents, like 300 names that are out there that could potentially sign with other teams, and or their own teams. So you're talking about there should be 10 signings a day basically, and I haven't seen anything crazy. But like I said, I expect one to drop, and then we'll go from there, and we'll see.
Well, let's talk about that next week because we haven't even had really like any business days, right?
Yep.
It just came up. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Let's see what happens next week.
But guys, if you're excited about baseball like I am, tune into our Whatnot show 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. We will be doing our typical Whatnot stuff. I have some baseball lots, 20 card lots of Soto, 20 card lots of Tatis, 20 card lots of, Ohtani, got some lots of Trout, got a couple of other cool cards as well. I got a PSA 10 Deshaun Watson rookie to throw out there. We can talk about him if you like a little bit. He's
I think
hot
it's
commodity.
fucking ridiculous that they try to ruin this guy's life. I've said that day.
You definitely have. You've been steadfast in your support of him and in your whole, that this is one of those things where, you're innocent until proven guilty. I'm just curious where he lands and what that's going to impact. There was a rumor going around today that who was it? Was it
clarify
Jalen
this?
Hurts, maybe?
Because obviously sexual assault is no joke. It should be taken seriously. I don't understand why a lot of times these cases are so dragged out, right? It was almost a year and a half, maybe even longer than that, from the time that he was accused to when the grand jury said that he was innocent, or there wasn't enough evidence. Is actually what
Right.
they said.
They didn't charge him. Yeah, they just said they're not even going to. The grand
And
jury
you're a
said
lawyer.
not to
Can you explain to me why it takes that long? Because
sure.
What
I can tell
it
you
felt
right now.
What it felt to me like, and tell me if this is true or false, is they were trying to drag his character to make the damage, regardless if he was guilty or not, so bad that he couldn't go back.
So I'll tell you, that's part of it. I mean, we'll never know, right? You're not there. We don't know the witnesses. We don't know the evidence. We don't know what was being asked to testify. But it's also, on the flip side of that, it's also entirely possible that it took this long because he was potentially behind the scenes working out settlements civilly with some of the people who were making allegations against him, who then would not testify at the grand jury, or these people would not provide evidence, and therefore there wasn't enough evidence to charge him criminally. So we will never know what was going on.
How is the settlement different than bribery?
It's a settlement.
Okay. Makes sense.
I mean, just the parties agree not to move forward. Here's a payment. It's not. I mean, it's not. That's the deal. Honestly, I'm not. I don't know if that happened at all.
I miss being a kid.
Any settlements? I don't know if there's any of them at all. I don't know whether or not it just there was no meat on the bone. I don't know. All I know is that it looks like he's not going to face criminal charges. You don't know what that means as far as what the NFL is going to do, right?
Like on the commissioner list.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what that means. I mean, they've come down pretty hard, right? I mean, Calvin Ridley made a couple parlays. He's not playing at all this year. So, if you're in Deshaun Watson's camp or a team that's looking to...
They can't punish a guy that wasn't criminally charged. Maybe they can. You know what?
I mean, Ridley wasn't criminally charged. He didn't commit a crime.
That's true. He broke rules. But then
we are getting into a fun little optics debate, right? You and I talk about this all the time, right? When people do stuff in the hobby, and you're like, whatever, you can do whatever you want, and we talk about the optics of it, like how things look, and this is exactly that, right? Like the NFL, they just suspended Calvin Ridley for a year. I'm sure there's more evidence than just $1,500 in betting, but for betting, which is something that they are promoting themselves. The next thing they're going to have to deal with is this guy, right? And there's a couple ways they could go. They can say, look, the grand jury didn't even charge him, so there's no evidence. So we're not going to suspend him at all. Or they can go throw the book at him because they know that people are going to be like, Calvin Ridley bet. This guy did this. You're going to give him 2 games while Ridley's off for the whole year? And then you get like a whole, they're in a little bit of a tough spot.
I'll save you the time. I'll go to my Instagram groups. We have brainiacs there who know every answer to every question.
They do.
They're the most brilliant people. They're never wrong. I'm looking at you, Mount Rushmore and Bro Namath.
I like Mount Rushmore and Bro Namath though, because they are very. Listen, Bro Namath is right more often than he's right more often than he's wrong, and Mount Rushmore sticks to his guns. And we have a lot of people like that. And I have to say, I like the community that we built, and I like those guys that are like, this is what it is, and you are not going to convince me anything else. That's fine. And
it's infuriating.
If you're going to dig in, that's great. If you can support your argument, then that's great too. And I mean, look, there are many people over the course of time that have been the one person standing on principle. And lucky for them, someone gave them a boat and they were able to sail across the ocean and not fall off of a flat earth. Mount Rushmore and Bro Namath might be Christopher Columbus in this situation. You never know. Just give him the opportunity. So let's talk about some other fun stuff, man. What would you like to chat about today? Because I am excited to get into my play. I really am.
I think it's outrageous that the Donald Trump interview on Full Send.
Yeah, tell me about that.
From YouTube.
I'll let you go on that because I know you mentioned to me these Full Send guys and the whole deal, and then you texted me that some podcast.
Full Send's a bunch of young pranksters from Florida. They're just like young pranksters that have a podcast, a YouTube channel. They just have fun, do a bunch of shit, and they invited Donald Trump on the show. And
he came on?
He came on. Cool setting. He just talked his talk. He talked about things that he thought were relevant. He talked about how the current climate in America is because of X, Y, and Z. And they pulled it for misinformation. Now misinformation is now opinion is misinformation is literally how it works.
Who pulled it? YouTube?
YouTube pulled it. It's outrageous, man. And then people out there are like, well, they're a private company. What don't you guys understand? What don't you guys not understand? Like, they're a private company. They don't need to follow the Second Amendment right of free speech.
I mean, they are a private company.
They're not a private company. They take bribes, lobbies from the people in our cabinet right now. They literally get money from the Biden administration, both sides.
You're in an interesting mood today, man. Do you want to take all of our content off of YouTube? And
I don't have an end goal right now. I'm very lost. I'm lost and frustrated because it's just there's a war going on. There's censorship in America. Gas prices are going through the roof. The economy's
cats
shit.
And dogs living together.
Just listen. Card prices are flat. There's not much excitement. I'm cynical. I'm cynical and pessimistic. I don't know what to look forward to. And it's fucking cold in PA.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it's snowy.
It's snowing here. It's snowing here too. It's gross.
I'm back in my childhood house. I feel miserable.
Well, that was what I was going to ask you. Does any of this have to do with that you're home?
I don't know. I'm not in tune with my emotions like that. I'm just pissed and annoyed and cynical. And I'm just going to find things to be mad about.
You're on the couch. You got a couch behind you. Lay down on the couch. We'll do a psychoanalysis session.
Dude, tell me whoever bought the couches in this house was either high, drunk, or both. Every couch in our house is a leather couch.
All right.
Leather couches are not comfortable. Maybe if it's like really hot outside, leather couches, I got you. But like no one likes a leather couch.
Then your leg sticks to it. You sweat.
Correct.
And you stick to the couch. So
and if it's cold,
yeah,
and then it's extra cold, it makes no sense. It makes no sense.
I mean, what kind of couch would you have? Yeah, Bob.
I love like the L-shaped couches.
Sectional.
Yeah, sectionals for sure. With a big ottoman, like a 2-person ottoman. Like a big sectional, with not like velvet, but like material. I don't know, like how to like
suede.
Nah,
velour?
That's
you want like a velour
how
jumpsuit?
do you know this?
You want like a Sergio Tacchini? No. All right. Well, listen, that works. I mean, we've had a fun little. I did a live last night with Sasha T. I'm sure we're gonna get him on the show.
You went live with Sasha T?
Yeah, late last night.
Since when?
Late. I mean, he was on there, and I started getting messages. I started getting notifications. Lou, Janu, Sasha, they started saying, "Where's Cage? Get on here, Cage. Come on alive." And Lou was like, Cage, right? And I jump into his the chat, and they're like, there he is, there's Cage, go live. And it's like midnight, and I put in the chat, I'm like, I don't have any clothes on, guys. I sleep in the nude here. You guys can't handle that. And Sasha's dying. He read it out loud. So I put a shirt on and jumped on, did a live with him with no pants.
What'd you guys talk about?
I didn't drop the phone because that could have been interesting.
You were dropping a log while you were recording.
Maybe no. So what we talk about everything. We talk about the hobby. We talk about him going on whatnot. We talk about F1 cards a little bit, which that's my favorite topic. We talk about V-Friends, whether you buy, hold, sell. I told him how I think right now it's an interesting thing because every person I've spoken to, they just want to flip or hold. Like nobody actually wants the product. No, I've not heard a single person say, I want this. And I made a joke to him. I'm like, and part of the difficulty of this is, what gives value to the amiable anchovy over the ridiculous ram or whatever the hell, the story is, right? And he's like, I didn't even think of that. He says, Cage says anchovy, so he was making, little jokes and stuff. But it's true. I mean, nobody is really saying, I need, what am I supposed to confirm is true? Just tell me. Because I'm not clicking out and then going in.
Manny asked, there's a post that says it's time to allow women to play in the MLB. The New York City mayor, Eric Adams, says this. It's probably a fake quote.
Eric Adams. He has maintained the vaccination requirement for private employers in New York City, which is why Kyrie Irving can't play in New York still. So far, so good there, Mayor Adams. Anyway,
that was another miss. Like with this whole war thing going on, the administration could have came out and been like, all right, COVID, we beat this thing. Like, I don't know. Like, I guess I'm trying to find optimism. I'm struggling to find optimism, but I want to be optimistic.
And you don't want to be in the drama. You don't want to be causing drama, involved in the drama. I get it, man. I get it. I understand.
Here's what I love to here. I guess I'll come back to. I love to see other people win. I love when people support each other. I love when people offer each other's platforms to kind of help each other out. I love that. I hate drama, and I like a good argument though. I do like our banter when you pounded your head with your fist like 60 times.
Dude, that really upset you.
Well, I'm worried about your brain cells. I'm worried about CTE. You punched your head really hard.
You're a boxer. I mean, the hardest part of your body is the top of your head. People will break their hand on their head, top of the head.
Right here.
It's an old bare knuckle boxing trick. You ever watch that?
To go like that?
If somebody's snapping a jab at you, put your head straight down. They punch the top of your head, break a hand.
How do you know this? How do you know these ridiculous pieces?
I've been on Earth for a very long time.
No, don't bullshit that. Like, how do you know this stuff doesn't serve you as a lawyer? Like, how do you know that?
I wasn't always a lawyer, and even lawyers have to be involved in fights every now and again. I went to college. I stayed sober, and for some reason, the men's rugby team and wrestling team didn't like my fraternity that much, and we were all smaller. I mean, not me, I wasn't small, but it was a smallish fraternity. And for some reason, that's who we always got in a fight with. Why couldn't we get into fights with like the chess team? No, the men's rugby team we should fight. Good job. Way to pick a rival there, fraternity. Anyway, yeah, but every once in a while, you gotta get a fight, man. Some people got muscles for show, some people got muscles for go. It's the way life is. So it's the quiet ones. It's the quiet ones that you got to worry about. Not the ones that, up in your face, like I'm going to kick your ass. Like that, yeah, I'm not worried about you at all. Anyway, yes. And also, if we want to get into movie knowledge, there was a movie called Gladiator.
Great movie.
That came out before the Russell Crowe one. Cuba Gooding Jr. is in it, Brian Dennehy. It is a boxing movie. I'm sure some of our listeners of a certain age remember this movie. Had some really good music in it, good soundtrack. At the end, Brian Dennehy actually gets into the ring and fights. And he was an old amateur fighter, ranked fighter, and he fights a kid. He once told him, top of the head, hardest part of the body. And he hits the kid in the head. He breaks his finger, and you see him he puts it back in the middle of the fight. It's It's an interesting movie. So anyway, guys, go check that out, Gladiator. It's a good hour and a half. Good sports movie. Very underrated. Not the Russell Crowe one. Andrew likes that one.
I do like that one. What's a good like motivational, inspirational movie I could watch tonight?
Depends. What do you want to be inspired to do? I mean, if you want to be inspired to find love, go watch The Notebook. No, not that. You want to be inspired to eventually break out of prison one day because we all know you're going to end up there? Watch Shawshank. I mean, what do you want to be inspired to do, man?
What would I go to prison for in your
Mail fraud?
Mail fraud?
Yeah, that just came off the top of my head. I just figured mail fraud. It's not going to be anything violent.
Here's a fun little story. So we used to buy cleats off this site called Eurosport, and then it got changed to soccer.com. And I would do some stuff like, we were good at this kind of game. But one time we just bought cleats, and we did it over the phone, and the lady accidentally typed in the number 10 instead of the number 1. And this was on credit because the last pair of cleats they sent ripped. Okay? Because we played soccer all the time. They ripped. They're like, we'll send you a new pair. But she accidentally sent us 10 pairs.
Nice.
And we get home from high school and we see this huge fucking box of shoes. Cleats, like $120 cleats, Predators. And then they called us and we had to give them back. They said we could keep one pair.
They called you?
Yeah. Because they knew that's like $1,200.
Wow.
They're like, we made a mistake. Can you please send them back? Or we're going to have to charge you.
Well, there you go. I mean, at least you did the right thing. You sent them back.
Should have kept them. Should have sold them.
I mean, listen, sometimes doing the right thing is the right thing to do. So, I mean, no.
What did you think about Gary's post, the one where they like the kid crying? He's like, I'm so grateful. This kid's my fucking shit. This kid. What do you think of that?
Gary has re-entered the zeitgeist for cards. He's re-entered the frame. He was out for a little while, right? And I got to tell you, my messages they're interesting. I get a lot of DMs. And guys, keep DMing me. And if you haven't DM'd me and you're like, wow, I'd like to talk to him, go ahead and DM me. I'll respond. I respond to almost everything. But this past week with these VFriend cards, it really got very Gary-centric and very negative. I got people sending me pictures of Gary with like a clown face, that he's the biggest Ponzi scheme guy since Ponzi himself, that he's a pump and dumper, he's a clown, he's horrible for the hobby. Somebody sent me a post that like, if Gary V sold farts in a jar, you would all buy them all until they sold out because you're all clowns that don't know how to do anything else. And you just follow this guy because you don't have any original thoughts in your own brain. I mean, nothing brings out the anger in people like Gary does. I got to say.
You know what it is?
You can tell me. What is it?
It's because he's not a pump and dumper. But what people do get upset about is he has an inner circle. And he has an inner circle for cards and an inner circle for NFTs. And he makes all of them money. His inside crew. And people on the outside all want to be in that inner crew because they all want to make money. They want to know either what cards he's going to talk about next, what product re-releases, what NFT he's going to talk about next, and they want to get in before everyone else does. And they want to be in that inner circle. And most of us, 99.9%, are on the outer circle trying to get in. And we're like, notice us, notice us, notice us, notice us. And when he doesn't, we get mad. We're like, what makes that guy with like the haircut that looks like, he was like a blind barber? Why him?
Let's talk about that for 5 minutes because there's a lot of that in the hobby itself. We can move away from Gary because I think you're right, but it is at all levels of this. And I think, part of why Chris and Josh, who we had on yesterday, part of why they get a little bit of the venom that they get is because people look at them and say, well, what's so special about these two guys? People were messaging me yesterday saying, why does Sasha T deserve a whatnot show? Who the hell is he? Somebody wrote me that he's a glorified pool cleaner. I don't even know what the hell that means, but that's what I got in a text and in a DM. And I write back to all these people. I'm like, maybe if you work hard like they're doing, maybe if you spent the probably, weeks, months coding like Josh did and, bled for it, then you would have built a platform like that and put in all the time and stuff like that. Maybe it's more of like, you got to be introspective. Think about it. I mean, it's funny. I'm at a card show and, a friend of the show was actually there and he walks up to me and says, hey, I get this friend. He doesn't really know what he's doing, but, maybe you guys can help him out. And I'm like, all right, we're always, ready to help out anybody you want. He says, it's funny though, because, he wanted to go to that Mint Collective and he's not going. And, he says to me, he's like, well, what's this Mint Collective doing? They put these Lucas Tigers guys? Who's this cage lawyer guy? I should go, not him. So, I mean, it's at all levels, right? And yet this guy, I'll still help you, right? I mean, if we can try to advance your platform, that's fine. Because I don't believe in my light shining brighter by blowing yours out. We can both have lights that shine bright. It's not a problem. If I want mine to shine brighter, I got to build up the flame.
Do you think that American dream, the meritocracy, that capitalism's still alive and well?
I think it changes from time to time. I think it becomes more difficult from time to time. I think maybe part of, what it is here is that, we're all kind of in this, and it's the NFTs, the cards, whether it's Top Shot or anything else, flipping. And the majority of people kind of just missed, but they know somebody.
Do you know what that is?
They know.
Have you heard of the near miss fallacy? Like that's what makes the slot machines work in casinos.
No, talk to me about it.
I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. So here, I'll near miss.
So what I was saying while you're looking it up was basically, I think a lot of these folks are sitting there saying, they're a little mad because they saw it. They were so close to it. They missed it by a week. They got in something a little late, or you have a friend who bought a card they were looking at and that card, has flown, or they sold something too early. And if they would have just done 1, 2, and 3, they'd be in a significantly different position. Or if they could have started this when this person did it, I had that same idea. There's a lot of that. In what we do. But go ahead.
I mean, I've been thinking about it a lot since I heard about it. Maybe on the 4th turning. I can't remember exactly where I heard it, but it was the near miss fallacy. In that, I mean, we're all gamblers, we're all speculators. We all want, we're taking on risk now for potential future gain. And the simple thing to see is when it's a slot machine and it's 2 of the same ones, and then the 3rd one is different, right? You're like, you want to go again because you're like, man, I was so close to hitting it big, right?
Yep.
And that little nugget gets stuck in your brain. And that could be with Top Shot. Like, man, I was so close to selling at $1 million. I got out 250,000, but I was so close to getting out $1 million. I need to go get back in, right? It gets you back in the game. So that's the near miss fallacy. But what I was thinking about is like,
it's the fallacy of I'm due. I'm due.
I'm due.
I'm due. Come on, man. Hawaii over's coming in. They're not going to miss the over 6 times in a row. It's time to chase. Hawaii over.
It never works.
Let's go. Hawaii over.
No, I mean, dude, it's getting hard. Like,
well, that's what she said.
It's getting hard to win. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm curious. I always bring these topics up because I think our audience, some of them are going to say, "Nah, man, just stay the course, stay the course." Some will be like, "Yeah, I feel it too."
Oh yeah.
But no, it's hard because rents are going up, expenses
the
going
legend
up,
of the rent is
gases are going up, making money on cards more difficult, grading fees going up, getting access to product more difficult. So like it's very difficult for the everyday man and woman to make money, but the elites that sell us the products are doing really well. And I think there's that frustration between the haves and the have-nots that's going to start creeping in.
All right. Well, listen, we just went pretty deep. We're a half hour in. We'll finish this episode up, but I'm going to take it on a different spin. I'm going to say, what is it that men like about the bathroom? I think we're born with it. I think it's like an inherent like genetic thing. Because if I can't find Ian, I'm like, where the hell did my son go? 11 times out of 10, he's just sitting in the bathroom on his phone watching something on YouTube. No, what's he doing? He's watching YouTube.
Well, he's at that age.
Although maybe, you never know. He's only 8. But whenever I walk
Freud
in
would
the
say
fun, he's
that's
just
when
kinda, like,
guys
sitting
and
there on
girls
the
start
phone.
touching.
Okay. When I said we're gonna have some fun, that was not the direction that I was going. So next thing, guys, you do not have to buy it today. You don't have to buy it at all. But I have a box of NBA Origins. What's that go for? $400, $450? You know, this year's Origins just came out this week. Cool thing. I opened one yesterday. Got a A.O. Deshaun autograph. I got a Durant numbered out of 60, just a regular one. Join us on Whatnot tomorrow, and you can pick up that Deshaun much cheaper than what I spent on the box. But I have another box. That box is going to be awesome. Not only is there like probably a 1-of-1 Kate Cunningham autograph in there, but it's going to be free. Someone's getting it for free. And you only have to do 2 things to get it for free. An entire box to one person. You have to own a Tiger. And then you have to fill out a bracket. NCAA bracket challenge is coming to Luca's Tigers NFT holders. So to you guys out there who have a Tiger, get in the Discord. We're going to be, handing out NCAA brackets. We'll be accepting them all week. Fill out your bracket, and somebody is going to win an Origins box. And I'll probably have some 2nd, 3rd, 4th place prizes, little booby prizes. I got boobies, so, it is what it is. So, but there you go. A little fun for the Tiger holders. We're also, in the beginning stages of putting together an SGC group sub. So I don't know, Andrew, you want to chat about that, or you want to wait for another day?
What do you want me to say?
Oh, you're creating a Facebook group. You want to tell people about that?
Wouldn't they see it on Instagram? Does Instagram not show our content to anybody?
Some people just listen to the podcast.
Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, some people don't go on Instagram all the time.
It's so hard to break through the noise.
It's our age group, my age group especially. When you tell me I'm make people laugh, it's fine. You can out me. When you say I'm starting a Facebook group, what did I write you?
What did you say? I think I'm gonna have to get a Facebook. I don't think you're on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm not on Facebook. I guess I gotta go get a Facebook account. I gotta go make a Facebook account, I guess.
I don't have Facebook. I guess that will have to change, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that's the deal. I mean, so there are people who are not, skimming Instagram all the time. They're and they just, they listen to us on a commute. We got the whole deal. So guys,
well, for better or worse, here's my business theory. I believe that I could win in business and in life by enriching and helping others. Okay. And I started thinking, with what's going on in the hobby, what do I know? And that's arbitrage, whether that's cracking, CSG cases, subbing them to SGC and selling, or finding cards raw, grade, flip. So what we wanted to do was kind of like a white glove service. So for any one of our listeners of the show, I'm moving down to Florida, and I thought, why don't I hand deliver these subs to SGC? I'm going to be 15 minutes away, 10 minutes away. I could hand deliver them, pick them up, either consign them on our Whatnot show, do a reveal on our Whatnot show, or send these cards back. And door to door, 3 weeks maybe? Sometimes if SGC is really on it, 2 weeks. But within a month, you get your cards back. And I thought that was pretty cool. And I thought people would appreciate that. I'm going to do my best to be as organized as possible so that you guys know that you're dealing with a A+ operation and that we would never, I understand the trust factor that comes into it. But I also think it's going to be a huge value add to, the thousands of listeners that we have here that want to sub cards with SGC, but they're kind of a little bit on the fence with everything that's happened with group subbers in the last year. You guys see us every day. We answer all of our DMs. We have a Discord, we have Instagram, we have a Facebook group now. So, within 24 hours, you're going to get a response. And we're going to try it out and see how it works. So, I'm calling it kind of like the white glove SGC submission service, door to door, in 4 weeks or less. So,
yeah. And if you guys are sitting there with cards and you're like, what am I going to do with these? You don't know where you're going to put them. You got a stack of cards and you've been waiting for the ability to grade and stuff like that. We might be able to provide an option for you. And that's the key. So let's see. Is there anything else we want to talk about? I want to jump into my play.
Warriors.
Yeah, we want to talk a little NBA.
Warriors
little
Bucks
basketball?
tonight. Who you got?
Oof. I don't know. A couple weeks ago, I liked Curry, and then a couple weeks before that, I liked Giannis. I don't know. I think the Bucks, and only one reason why is I've said it since the beginning that Wiseman would make a difference, and he still hasn't come back, and we'll see whether or not he can make a difference when he comes back, if he ever gets back there. In the games that are close for the Warriors, they don't get rebounds. They don't have someone inside. I mean, Loney only does so much. Looney, whatever the hell his name is, only does so much. And you saw if Steph is not on, like completely on, when they play against also a good team that has an inside presence, like the Nuggets, tail of the 2 games against the Nuggets, right? Steph was on in the end of the 3rd quarter and the 4th quarter of the last game.
Jordan Poole as well.
Jordan Poole had a great game. But the first game, I mean, Joker was inside, just dominating. And you can see just the game opens up, right? It's the first play. What do? Inside the Joker, he gets position, and he's just finger roll the ball right in, you know? They can be dominated in the paint. And Giannis can dominate anyone in the paint. And when you put him up against a team that has no one to defend him, you know,
it's a problem.
You can see another 50 piece from Giannis.
Who's your MVP right now?
I still go with Embiid, but is in flux. Okay, it depends on what happens. I mean, if Philly is the 1 seed, you know, if Philly runs away with the East now. I mean, they just had a bad game against the Nets, and that's going to have some reverberations. But it could be Joker, it could be Embiid, it could be Giannis. I think it's like
and this is MVP
race.
is not the best player, right?
Right. No, it's.
Okay.
I mean, you know, it doesn't. I don't think it's ever really
the most
defined.
valuable to the team.
Yeah, I mean, there's never been a definition of it. Right? There's never been it's just the most valuable player, right? Sometimes the best player out there is on a team that doesn't win that much, and people don't like giving the MVP to someone who's on a losing team. You know what I mean?
The fact that Embiid gets so much love is really interesting to me because I think he's one of the most overrated players in the league.
So, speaking of people you think are overrated, I think I should have put into the conversation LeBron James for MVP.
In terms of he's the most valuable player to this team because the team is so
I think
bad
right now, any way you want to define it, he should be getting serious consideration for most valuable player this year.
Because of his 50-point games?
No. Dude, forget about just the 1 or 2 or 3 50-point games. He's averaging almost 30 points a game. He's averaging more points than anybody right now. I think he leads the league in scoring.
He does.
Right? And while the team record is not good, right, they are going to probably still make that play in. And one measure is if you took that player off the team, what would they be? And I think that team might be the worst team in the West without LeBron.
So
he takes the worst team
and this is
to a
good.
playoff team. Okay.
Definitions are good. I think the MVP is the best 2-way player in the league. Right? Because we often look at offense but not defense. And I don't think there's one single award that does the best 2-way player in the league.
No, because they have it separated and there's defensive player of the year. So, you know, they don't do that. But yes, value to the team is on offense and defense. It's part of what made Jordan great.
It's exactly what made Jordan great. And it's what makes basketball so unique because there's not a lot of sports where you get to impact the game on both sides of the ball, right? Like PSG lost. Well, Messi couldn't go back and stop that goal. The goalie just gave the ball away. They scored. He didn't play defense.
So it makes Ohtani so intriguing, by the way.
It is. It really does. And he's one out of, and no one else does that. That's why, like, Embiid to me is so overrated in the sense that he's good on defense, but like to me, Giannis is so he's so much more impactful on defense than anybody else even close to him, and he's so impactful on offense.
I agree, but I think if you take Giannis off that team, they're not a dominant team, but I think they'll still make the playoffs. I mean, you are a big fan of Middleton and Holiday and that kind of stuff, but I don't know if I say the same thing about Philly. I mean, with Harden now, it's a different story, but I think before that, he was everything. You know, he basically put that team on his shoulders. So, I mean, it really is how you define value, right? So, and valuable.
If you take LeBron off the Lakers, they're a bottom 3 team in the West.
They might be the worst team in the West. They could possibly be the worst team in the West with no LeBron.
So it's really fascinating. It really is fascinating. But then at the opposite, like there's so many counter arguments. how embarrassing is it that the Lakers with LeBron have a worse record than the Clippers without Paul George and Kawhi?
I mean, it just shows you that even a superstar playing out of his mind and leading the league in scoring is not enough in the NBA.
But this team had lost 2 of their superstars, and they have a
I get
better
you.
record.
I get you. But I mean, look. I mean, the Lakers also lost Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook is playing like somebody.
What do you think about the whole Russell Westbrook thing? So, like, Russ Westbrook is like one of the toughest competitors, kind of a shit talker, not a nice guy. And now he's saying, "Yo, guys, be easy on me." Like with Westbrook, that stuff hurts.
He's getting paid a lot of money.
Getting paid a
He's
lot.
Getting paid a lot of money. I mean, I don't get paid a lot of money to do this.
And you're getting paid playing.
You've never reached out to anybody to say like, "Hey, go easy on Cage." I mean, people take their shots. They definitely do. And, I mean, it's part of what you do, it's part of, it's part of it. Especially he's playing like crap. Like he deserves everything he gets and more. So, all right, enough of that. Cause I just wanted to see whether or not you give LeBron a little credit. Cause I mean, he's playing very well. And I don't give a shit that he's 37.
What are we giving him credit for, I guess? Because
he's having a good year. He's having a very good year.
It's obvious what he's doing, right? He's going for the scoring title.
Yes.
Okay. So I mean,
but don't you think a lot other players on other teams, especially ones that are already eliminated from the playoffs, if their players were that good, they would say, "I'm going to go for the scoring title too." It's one thing to say I'm going to go for the scoring title, but then to say I'm going to go for the scoring title and then be able to do it shows you're pretty damn good.
Well,
I mean, there are people out there trying to stop him.
Well, part of going for it is also taking plays off on defense, and because of his pedigree, no one calls him out on that.
So I would give you this if he didn't have 50 points on only 25 shots in the last game.
LeBron is phenomenal. LeBron is the greatest athlete of
guys. Clip that. Clip it. He said it. He said he's phenomenal. There you go. You got what you wanted.
I've said LeBron is the greatest athlete ever. People said, "Hold up, Will Chamberlain." I don't know Will Chamberlain, but he's the greatest athlete of our generation. It's not even close, man. The guy's 37 and he gets like, and he's built like a brick. He's fast. I'm not questioning his talent. I've always questioned his. Desmond Bain has the traps are insane. I question his motivation. Like it's always to me like I question his goals and his motivation, I guess, and a competitive spirit, not his talent.
So I'm going to talk to you about somebody that I think is a completely overlooked guy. And guys, we've talked about now on quite a few occasions these cardboard relevant players, cards that I think you can just scoop up and just put it in your collection. Just forget about it. You know what I mean? One of these, like, set it and forget it, like Ron Popeil and his rotisserie oven, right? It's not flashy, but it's not Yastrzemski. And I got to tell you guys, this is a card. So I bought a bunch of these myself many years ago. The Griffey Jr. 89 Upper Deck card. I know there's a billion of them, but I paid like $400 for it. The Don Mattingly 84 Donruss. I paid like $400 or $500 for it.
You're talking about the PSA 10, right? Not the base.
All in PSA 10. The base card in PSA 10, right? The Derek Jeter, Shaquille O'Neal, like these cards that are just like, okay, this is the card, this is the guy. The last one we talked about was the 1982 Topps or Topps Traded, if you like it, of Cal Ripken. And I like doing this segment because it allows me to introduce people who were born way after these guys came out, way after their rookie years. And to explain why they were who they were, right? And why there's value in it, right? And it's baseball, right? So a lot of people don't love baseball. It's not sexy. It's not. We talked about, believe it or not, yesterday with the car letter guys. They were like, I don't have to worry about what Michael Jordan's going to do. It's the same thing here, right? You know what Cal Ripken's legacy is, right? And as another shortstop, Tatis comes up and tries and fails to be Cal Ripken's cards become more valuable. Today's player, and I mean, if you were looking at my hat, there you go. I love it. By the way, we bought that at the National, and we paid $20 for it. Tony Harley was with us. We each picked one up, right? I don't think you could still get it for $20 because I'm pretty sure that PSA 10 is like $1,000 now.
Wow.
So,
dude, I was at my LCS where I bought the Clemente yesterday, and there was a kid, and he was with his dad, and I was like, "Hey, is it okay if he curses?" And his dad was like, "It's
Uh-oh.
fine, it's fine." Well, because I didn't want to show him the fuck
Yeah.
face,
Yeah.
and I was
You
like, "Come
should've.
look at this," and he started cracking up
Ian
because
wants
there
to
was
take it
one
to
of these.
school. I don't want him to get suspended in third grade, but he keeps asking me, "Can I bring my Billy Ripken card to school?" No. Just tell kids about it, pal. So anyway, I'm wearing my San Diego hat. Today's play is Tony Gwynn. You ever heard of Tony Gwynn?
Yes, I have lefty.
So revered in San Diego. There's a brewery named after his batting average. There's a statue for him there. It's one of the few stadiums I've actually been to and caught a game at. And he is, he's their guy there, right? And a lot of people have already, talked about this guy. Hall of Famer in '07. Unfortunately, he died at only 54 years of age. He had cancer. So no longer with us. So to say that his legacy is set is there. So let's go through some fun facts, right? 20 MLB seasons. 20 MLB seasons. Ended with 3,141 hits, 19th all time on baseball. MLB's all time list. So 3,000 hits. He hit 350 or higher in 7 seasons. 4 other players, Ted Williams, Al Simmons, Shoeless Joe, and Lajoie, who I talk about all the time, hit at least 350 that many times. It's only been done more by Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Rogers Hornsby, Ty Cobb, and Tris Speaker. That's it. Now, we're not talking about batting 300, which makes you an all-star. We're talking about the guy 7 different times batted over 350. Career batting average, 338. That includes those last couple years where you tail off a little bit to try to get those 3,000 hits. One of only 30 players in the entire history of major leagues that hit 330 or higher for their entire career. No one's doing this now, right? No one's hitting with that kind of a batting average now. He led the league in batting average 8 times. He was the batting champ 8 times. That's crazy. Only other player to win more batting titles was Ty Cobb, who had 12. He had 300 or better for 19 consecutive years. The only time he didn't do it was his rookie season. Only other player to win more batting titles, Ty Cobb, right? He had the longest run in National League. Cobb had the American League record. He had 23 seasons with over 300. So I'm making this comparison because Ty Cobb is a god in baseball. Ty Cobb is a god in cardboard. And yet Tony Gwynn, you don't really hear his name that often. And it's because he's a modern guy. It's because he was an 80s player who, the 80s is considered junk wax. It's considered, junk era cards, and people don't think about it, right? I bring him up for another reason. We've just gone through a work stoppage, right? Where we actually thought we were going to miss some games. The last time, and I talked about this before, the last time we missed games was 1994. And in that 1994 strike-shortened season, he finished that year with a batting average of 394. A 394 batting average, ranking 37th on the all-time list. Had that season not ended on August 12th, we were kind of robbed that year, right? We were robbed in 1994 of baseball because of that strike. We were robbed of one of the greatest hitting seasons, possibly the greatest hitting season I've ever seen since I've been alive, where he could have made a run at 400 and potentially would have been the 21st player to ever do that, and the first since Ted Williams did it in 1941. And you don't hear his name. You don't hear him talked about. In that 1994, in that season, he hit 475 over a stretch of 43 plate appearances. And after the All-Star break, he was batting 423. I don't know whether he would have done it, but he was definitely on pace to do it if you looked at his second half numbers. Greg Maddux, I've talked about him, right, as being one of these amazing, pitchers, one of the best of a generation. Against Maddux, he batted 415 in 107 plate appearances. That's the most plate appearances Maddux had any batter. And Gwynn never struck out against him. And in a time where we all watch baseball now, how many times does Aaron Judge strike out in a year? How many times do these guys who are power hitters strike out in a year? Do you have any idea? They strike out over 200 times in a year. You're Dan Alvarez, any power, every one of these big guys strike out 200 times a year. This guy, Tony Gwynn, who played 20 seasons and had 10,232 plate appearances. 10,232 plate appearances. You want to take a guess how many times he struck out in 20 years? These guys are 200 per season now. That means over 20 years, they're going to strike out 4,000 times. How many times do you think he struck out?
994.
434.
Wow.
Total for his career. Averaged 22 strikeouts per year. He struck out every 24 times.
22 strikeouts per year.
Per year. Yeah, he struck out every 23 plate appearances. 23.57.
Wow. He struck out 1 out of 8 games. Fun one.
He had 500 games. Yeah, 534 doubles and 434 strikeouts. Got 100 more doubles than he had strikeouts.
Wow.
The most times he struck out in his career in a season was 40 in 1988.
Because
Fewest
the
time he
pitchers
struck
suck
out.
then, right?
Pitchers are great. We're talking about amazing pitchers. You know, I mean, he pitched in the 90s. You know, he pitched against, he hit against young Pedro Martinez. Nolan Ryan was pitching back then. I mean, you had some amazing, the whole Braves team, he had pitched against John Smoltz, Tom Glavine. There are Hall of Fame pitchers in the 80s, amazing pitchers. He hit against Dwight Gooden. He hit against Roger Clemens, right? I mean, so the most times he struck out in the season, most ever, right? He had 40. The fewest times he struck out in the season when he had 500 more plate appearances, 1995, he struck out a total of 15 times in 577 plate appearances. It's just a different batter. He had a great eye. He made contact. And while he wasn't trying to swing every single time, put the ball into the seats, he was putting it in play. 1987, 370 and 56 steals. Right? Stole 56 bases. One of 5 players to hit 370 with at least 50 steals. Again, Ty Cobb on that list. One of 17 players to play at least 20 seasons, and here's my favorite thing, spend his entire career with one team. Also, a nice little addition to cardboard relevance, right? We had Cal Ripken, always thought of as a Baltimore Oriole. Tony Gwynn is basically Mr. Padres. Among that time, he has the Padres' top mark in 14 categories. In the Padres team, he's career batting average, hits, extra base hits, runs scored, RBIs, doubles, triples, steals, games played, total bases, plate appearances, walks, intentional walks, and sacrifice flies. Pretty cool, right? Voted into the Hall of Fame with 97.6% of the ballots with Cal Ripken. No one eligible for the Hall of Fame has gotten that high of a percentage. Since then, obviously, we have a bunch of other people. Since we had, Mariano Rivera, Derek Jeter, and those guys. Maddox was at 97.2. And they had to make a rule for him, right? It was the Tony Gwynn rule. In 1996, Gwynn had 498 plate appearances, 4 short of the 502 necessary to qualify for the batting title. The rule allows hitless at-bats to be added to a player's season total, getting to the minimum number required. With those extra appearances, Gwynn's average would have dropped from 353 to 349, which still would have been good enough for another batting title that they didn't give him. And you want to know what else is crazy? San Diego State. We talk about like Marshall Faulk played there. That's where he went to college. In addition to playing baseball, he was a point guard. All-time leader at San Diego State with 590 career assists. Season assists 221. He averaged 8.2 assists per game, and most assists in a game, 18. Only player in the WAC, the Western Athletic Conference, to be named to the all-conference team in 2 different sports. He earned honors once in baseball and twice in basketball, 2-time All-American. In 81, he was a 3rd-round selection in the MLB draft with a 58th pick, and a 10th-round pick, number 210 overall in the NBA draft. Lots of fun, right? So, guys, I give you all these stories because
Dude, this guy's a boss.
And no one knows about him and no one talks about him, right? Because he's dead and you don't see him out there anymore. But when he was alive, he was standing next to Ted Williams at All-Star games. Because it's part of the story, man. It's part
Can
of
you
the deal, right?
talk as a father? Can you talk to people about chewing tobacco?
Oh, well, because he had cancer of the salivary gland, so that's where you're going with it. I mean, listen.
No, he sued the tobacco company, not me.
He did. Yeah. So, I mean, listen, I will tell you, it's funny. My daughter came home this week and said, "Do you know what Juul is?" And I'm like, "No." And she said, "It's a vape pen, and we're learning about it in school, and how they're targeting advertisements of this vaping to kids, and they have flavors like watermelon and cotton candy, and I mean, what adult wants to have cotton candy flavored, tobacco and blah blah blah." So, they're learning, and we talk about it as well, and I mean. It's tobacco was part of baseball for a very long time. I mean, look, some of the cards, in fact, maybe the card we celebrate the most, that Honus Wagner card, is a tobacco card. I mean, baseball cards have their roots in tobacco in and of itself. They kind of went hand in hand. Bubble gum kind of took over from there and became chewing gum cards. And it's part of what, makes that Wagner card have the allure that it does, right? Because, of the alleged story that he didn't want to be associated with tobacco products. But without going down that road, I want to stick with Tony Gwynn just really quick, guys, because I'm excited about this play. So can you do me a favor? Are you able to pull up Card Ladder?
Yeah.
Can you pull up the 1983 Topps Tony Gwynn? It's card number 482 in PSA 10. So again, guys, this was a card when I was looking at it a couple years ago. It was probably $400, and I just never pulled the trigger on one. It's a condition-sensitive card. It's a really awesome card. You've probably seen it recently because Topps does the throwbacks every year, 25, 30 years later, where they have this card. It's got the little circle with the player's face on the bottom of the card, and then it's got him kind of running. So it's great because he was such a good player. You think about him for hitting, but here he is stealing a base. Tony Gwynn, that's the card right there, Gem 10. Condition sensitive. There were 23,000 of these graded with PSA, and only 686 have reached the PSA 10. Now, what is amazing about this is why I love my cardboard relevant stuff is you see the spike that every other card has had, but not the same type of crazy correction, right? This is not a standard middle finger type of graph, right? And if you take that spike out, you see a nice steady growth over time that I expect to continue because the players who we talk about, they're going to come and they're going to go, right? The Juan Sotos are going to come and they're going to put up their numbers, and the Mike Trouts are going to come and they're going to put up their numbers. And I will put Tony Gwynn year after year against almost all of them. And as that happens, more people find out about him. His name is mentioned more in the same sentence as Ty Cobb. It's, hey, if Mike Trout does this, this, and this for 5 more seasons, he'll be able to do this, this, and this. And that'll put him in a category where it's only him, Ty Cobb, and Tony Gwynn. You know what I mean? And if that happens, people are able to, appreciate the guy more. And you hear about him, oh, let me go back and try to find this guy's card. Not to mention, even though it was only $400, what's it selling for now? What's the card letter value on this?
2,500.
$2,500, right? No, there were 9s, and this is not a cheap card. It's not going to be the the one that everybody can get, right? But it's just one of those ones where I think you could probably go to a show and probably find it a little less than that. Cash deal, you might be able to get it for 2, maybe something like that. But I have a feeling we'll do this show for many, many years to come. And we'll do a little look back, a little retrospective on Cal Ripken's 1982 Topps, Tony Gwynn's 1983 Topps, and look at the price that we talked about him at. And it will be more. Is this going to be $5,000 next month, guys? No. If you're expecting to, attach your wagon to something that's going to go 10x this year, this is clearly not it. It's not the play, right? There's nothing that's going to happen to Tony Gwynn or Tony Gwynn's cards that's going to make this thing explode in value. But if we're all right about the hobby, we're all right about how cards are going to, continue to grow, and we're going to have more people in it, and Fanatics is going to bring more attention to it, et cetera, there will be demand for more than 686 of these. And that will cause the price to continue to go up. Tony Gwynn?
Jerry Jeudy, National Treasures. PSA 9, I don't think National Treasures grades matter. $500.
Yeah, it's cheap. And people are still sleeping on him. We talked about him now with Russell Wilson going over there. I mean, they became, I think, the number 3 odds-on favorite for the Super Bowl now with him there. They moved the odds, they're like the 3rd best odds for the Super Bowl, the Broncos now. I'm telling you.
I wouldn't hold that long, but whenever you have Herbert, Mahomes, Russell, Wilson, I think it's just going to be a fun division. And I think Judy's going to be his guy. I mean, actually, I don't think so. You think so. And you didn't give it as an official play. So I went searching for his cards, and it's kind of a bargain. National Treasures,
really, $500.
$500. And what's cool is if you go to Alt, you could see the previous sale. Last August, it sold for $525. So the person who bought it just wants to get out from under it.
Wow. I might have to buy it.
Jerry, you like
Listen,
Jerry
guys, take a look at Jerry G. I mean, pull up some YouTube footage of him in Alabama. The guy it was like watching a video game. I mean, there's one player.
Devontae?
Yes, shiftier. There's one player, I remember, he caught the ball. He's heading towards the sideline at about the 10, and he stops. And it's like he glued his shoe to the ground, and the defender goes flying past him. And then that's a nice patch, too. That's a really nice card for $500.
Yeah, here's the same exact card sold on eBay last August 2021.
It's a nice find. That's a cool card.
Not bad, right? So take a look. That was my play. Actually, it's Cage's play that I just pulled out.
No, I like it. I like it a lot. What do you think of Alt, man? You're a fan of their auctions. You still on board?
Dude, the Jordan. So if you guys remember a few weeks ago on Leland's, we actually gave Leland's a hard time, and I gotta apologize. They had the exquisite Michael Jordan, beautiful patch auto, the jersey number. Someone bought it off Leland's and then immediately relisted it on the liquid auctions, and it sold for less. It sold for 130K.
And we were thinking maybe Leland's didn't promote their auction enough, and now put it on alt. It'll get promoted a little bit more, or whatever it is. You know what I think we should do? I mean, Manny's kind of doing a recap. I think we should start to collect some feedback from people who use alt, who use PWCC, who use Golden, and see what they think are positives and negatives. And I think it'll make for a good show, sort of, an informational, what people's experiences have been. And, maybe it will be useful for those auction houses and for those companies to hear what their users are saying, good, bad, and indifferent. And maybe it'll allow them to make some changes. Maybe they'll be able to get some cards back from the vault quicker, or maybe they'll be able to, if somebody tries to put a card up for auction in February, they're not going to get paid until May. That's a problem. You know what I mean? So maybe there's a way to kind of expedite things, or, so I guess we'll see. Yeah, there it is. The Jordan 23 out of 50. Yep. Nice card.
What's interesting, Cage, is so they have the sale right here, Leland's January 29th. But they have the alt value at 110. So I guess the assumption is this guy overpaid, which is hilarious because the seller, imagine the seller and
wait a sec. Can you go back to that? Why
Sure.
is there a Golden auction sale? Oh, that's not the same exact card, right? It's the same type of card. It's not the number 23. Like, it didn't sell Leland's, then Golden, and then here, right?
Correct. This was number 14.
Okay.
But that was jersey number that just sold for less than the 14 out of 50. Same grade.
Now, 14 sold for 102.
Yes. Okay. And this one sold for 134.
Right. So the alt value of 110 didn't really give that much of a premium for the jersey number.
Yeah. Yep. You are right, Cage. Gold sold for 180.
I mean, I'd be curious to see if that actually sells. Like, somebody actually pays for it.
I don't think you can on alt not pay because, I guess you can, but because you have to load the money into the account. Okay, I'm not going to say things I don't know.
No, you do. You have to have the money in the account, right? But, if it wasn't on alt, let's say it was on Fault, because I like adding Fs to things like Prism. Let's say it was on the Fault platform and somebody from Fault bought it. I don't know where I'm going with it, but that's a lot of friggin' money. That's a lot of money for a Gold. That's almost $200,000. It's a lot of money. I know we're
Min Gem.
I know we're in a gold rush and everything like that, but that's a lot of money to be paying for a card.
What else? Tatum. Now's probably a good time to get out of under Tatum, right?
Isn't that amazing? I talked about them when they were 8 wins in a row, and I said, right before the break, I said, "Oh, don't sleep on the Celtics," and you were like, they put the 8 games they played have been against shitty competition, but if they turn it around, and I said, let's talk about Tatum and Brown, and you said, but after the break, they got a couple of really good teams. If they're still on a run and they're playing, then I'll buy into it, and they did. And you did, and you bought into it, and you started talking about the Celtics because it caught your eye because now they're actually doing it against legitimate competition.
And he's putting up big numbers.
2-3 weeks. Yeah, he's putting up big numbers. He's he's a headline guy, right? 2-3 weeks, and now it's sell. That's the way it works, guys.
Well, as you head into playoffs, the competition gets stiffer. It is what it is. You're not going to be you're not going to have those off nights where you get to play, the Bobcats. Remember that team?
Well, yes. Let's also make sure people understand what we're saying, right? Back then, the cards had upside. And as the price goes up, he has less upside. And when you do an analysis of whether or not a card is something you should buy or sell, you're trying to look at how much the upside is in the card. And as the price goes up, there's less upside and more potential downside. That's why I say sell. It doesn't mean you're pumping and dumping. I don't own a single Jason Tatum card. Last week on Whatnot, somebody said, can you put some Tatum cards up? I said, I'll go look. You know what? I found 2 hoops cards. I don't have anything Tatum. Not rookies either, like from last year.
I have a Tatum hoops as well. You have 5 minutes, Gage?
Let's see. Yeah, I do.
Yuga Labs bought. Oh, he left. So if you guys don't know, CryptoPunks was made by Larva Labs and Meebits as well. Bored Apes was made by Yuga Labs, and the company that made Bored Apes just bought out CryptoPunks. And I'm curious. You don't need me to go over it again, right? I
No,
just said
I
the
heard what
Bored
you're
Ape
saying.
company
Yep,
bought
I
out.
know. I heard you.
Any thoughts? What do you think's going to happen? Like, is that good for apes? Good for punks?
I
Good
think
for
it's
both?
irrelevant. They didn't
It
buy
doesn't.
out. They didn't buy out the punks. I saw tweets after this that said, "You know what's going to happen next? World of Women is going to buy another woman's project, and Cool Cats is going to buy Gutter Cats." And okay, that's not what happened, right? The team behind Apes bought the IP rights from Larva Labs for the punks, and then just said, "Okay, you guys have them now. You have IP rights, right? You can use the IP rights, and you can now market these
Because
things."
that was the
So somebody
contextualize
that was the big
for people.
thing, right? So, well, it's whether or not you really own it, whether you have commercial rights to these things, whether or not you can make a game, or you can put it on your shoes, or you can sell merchandise with it, right? It's the ability to license these things, right? Where World of Women you're able to, Bored Apes you're able to, Punks you weren't able to, right? So they bought those and they released the IP, they released the rights. So now people can build games, shirts, they can display these things, and the person who owns their punk can profit off of it themselves without the permission of or without having to kick back to Larva Labs. That is not the Bored Apes didn't buy the punks. You can't buy the punk. The punks are owned by the punk owners. The same way that the Cool Cats can't buy the Gutter Cat gang because the Gutter Cat, we bought it. Well, are the people who own the Gutter Cats getting a share payment now? Is it like buying? Is it like
But that's a
okay?
bigger
Well, if I
deal.
own it,
But Larva Labs. This for a little while. It hurt CryptoPunks. Was the Larva Labs guys said that you can't use the IP rights to the CryptoPunks anything over $100,000.
Yep.
So it is a bigger deal in theory.
I'm gonna tell you what I get from it. There's another negative I'm gonna give to the space. Because obviously the people who are buying it knew about it. It was disseminated. There's no regulation about insider trading. There's no regulation in the space about when a deal like that is being made, that it's got to be kept quiet. And if people trade on the inside information, they go to jail or they get fined or they're not allowed to profit on it. And yet, if you look at the sale prices from Meebits, which is another Larva Labs owned property, and the CryptoPunks, you'll notice that they all went up a lot in the days leading up to this announcement, which means either the people who were doing it bought them knowing that the price was going to go up, or they were telling people and people were trading all that inside information. So to me, while it's an interesting thing and it's definitely a cool story and people are making a positive out of it, I consider it a negative because it just shows another example of the common man, the trader who is not able to trade on inside information, not able to make money where the insiders are. And I don't think it's a good thing for the space if you look at it that way. Sorry to go on an NFT tangent, guys, but we try to cover everything that's got a little bit of fun value and stuff for you.
I mean, we enjoy talking about this. We would be talking about it even
By
if
the way,
you and
I want to show you a card because I brought it up as a play. And I want to show you a card,
Okay.
and I don't know whether I'm going to bid on it, but it may be the first F1 card that I bid on. But I think if I bring it up, Ken Golden may owe me a favor, and I probably won't. I won't win it. The hell with it. Let's just bring it up because I want people to see it. It's a really cool card. Can you pull up Golden's auction for us?
What's the card called?
Type in the search function FUTERA, Futera.
Oh, you talked about this card. That's a cool card.
Now, a couple things here. When you pull it up, you're not sharing yet, but when you do, I'll show. A couple things. Look how young he is. Right, this is Lewis Hamilton, guys. The same Lewis Hamilton that you're seeing on rookie cards from 2019, 2020 F1 products. This is a 2006 Futera Grand Prix Lewis Hamilton. It's called Next, right? So this is what I would consider a rookie card of him. I'm going to take this two different ways. Number one, there is one PSA 9, and you're looking at it, and there are no PSA 10s. So this is the highest graded. I think it's at $40,000 plus prize premium. It's clearly an early card of him, a rookie card of him. What I'm going to say is these type of early F1 cards, the pricing discovery on this is going to be interesting because there probably are people in Europe that have this card. There probably are people in America that have this card. There might be an LCS somewhere that's sitting with this card in a dollar bin, right? Because nobody cared about it, nobody knew about it. And I think more will come up for sale. And I'm going to give you guys a fun little Ken Golden story. So I bought a Pele card, this 1958 Gazzetta card in PSA 4 in Golden, and it was listed as highest graded, blah, 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 none higher, you name it. And I paid a premium because it was the highest graded, none higher. And it's still an awesome card, and I love it and the whole deal. But wouldn't you know it, the week after I buy the card from Golden, Golden's friends at PSA, I'm not saying Ken knew about this the whole deal, they graded one a 5. So the week after I have the one that's the highest graded at a 4, I no longer have the one that's the highest graded. I'm sure it's a coincidence, right? Is it something I'm not happy about? Sure, right? But I'm telling you that because that actually happened, and it happened to me, and this is what we do. We share our stories here. So if I were a bidder on this card, the one hesitancy that I had about pulling the trigger and spending $50,000 on a card like this, because it's amazing, it's pretty cool, and it's different than what everybody else has of Lewis Hamilton. I can't tell you how many cards there are of Lewis Hamilton standing like this, just standing there, looking like Kevin Durant holding the basketball in his Nets jersey, just standing there with sapphire and chrome and gold and purple and orange and yellow and red in 3 different releases, the same stupid pose of him just looking at you like that, and people paying thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars for the same stupid card over and over again. This is not it, right? This card is different. But it wouldn't surprise me if Ken and his auction team sold this card for $60,000, $70,000 right now. And next month, a PSA 10 is up for sale. Because it happens. So be careful what you're spending on this if you're treating it as a Pop 1, none higher. Because Pop 1, none higher on cards that just kind of came out of nowhere often become Pop 2 with 3 higher.
And cards that have come out of nowhere of people, of a player that is in high demand. You auction the 9 to set a benchmark to go over top and auction a 10 to really create a market for it.
It would be smart. That would be a smart way of doing it.
Luca Nation, let's get some dinner.
I love you guys.